Welcome to this week's episode of MLM Renegade. This week, guys, we're going to talk about habits. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So here's the million-dollar question. How are network marketers like us, who've tried everything their upline ever suggested to be successful, and yet still struggled, who grew up with technology and aren't stuck in the 20th century, how are we supposed to grow our downlines and our bank accounts, and yet still have time for real life? My name is J.R. McKee. Join me as we explore how to use 21st century learning and technology to grow our downlines and build lasting wealth. Simply put, this is MLM done different. Welcome to MLM Renegade. So habits are one of those things that I think about a lot. And I've been reading another book. This one called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and it really is talking about daily habits that get us into a place where we can find success. And I'm finding just a ton of really great information in this book. And it talks a lot about, kind of the whole premise for the book is that by completing these habits consistently over time, you're building that slight edge that you can use then to get ahead. It's just the slightest of edges that separate first from third in a Olympic race, for example. Or the example, actually, one of the examples he gave was Michael Phelps in the Olympics. I believe it was the Beijing Olympics, where he was trying to break Mark Spitz's record for the most gold medals in a single Olympics, which was 7. Mark Spitz was an incredible swimmer as well, and he went into it, and the first 7 went smoothly, like he was just sailing through, and then I believe it was the 100 butterfly. Michael found himself behind, going into the last, call it 25, maybe 30 meters of the race, and he went for it, and he went all out and ended up winning by 1/100th of a second to win that 8th gold medal, which was obviously a huge accomplishment. Michael Phelps is incredible. But 1/100th of a second in a 100-meter race, that is basically not cutting your fingernails that morning. That's how much we're talking about here. It is so incredibly close. You cannot fathom how close that line is in a race. And Michael put his head down and went and got it, and good for him. But that one race wasn't won in that final 30 meters. That race was won every morning at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning since he was like 6 years old. Michael Phelps has an incredible work ethic, and the amount of work that he's put in to be, the greatest swimmer of all time is an incredible feat in and of itself. But it's those small habits that were completed with consistency over many, many years that built up to lead him to be able to make that. And that really is how all overnight successes are born. Success does not happen overnight. Success is something that builds until it reaches critical mass and then explodes to everybody else's point of view. But most of the people that I know personally who I would consider a quote-unquote overnight success, that overnight took 10 to 12 years to get there. So habits are a really interesting dynamic, though, because the brain and the body create habits as shortcuts, as ways and methods that we can make our lives more efficient. So maybe it's something as common as driving a car. For example, I commuted for a long time. I was commuting to work, and I can't count how many times that I drove home on near autopilot, that I don't remember what happened during that commute because I was on autopilot. It was a habit. I went to the same place, the same distance, and I knew the way. I can't count how many times I've actually gone to go somewhere else and got into that kind of autopilot role where suddenly I was just going through the motions, and suddenly I found that I had taken a wrong turn because my brain was going somewhere where I wasn't planning on going. And so, but habits are small acts of consistency. And sometimes they become very large acts of consistency. And it's when those situations occur where it can be very good or very bad for a habit. Addiction is a habit that it's created over time, and where we become dependent on something else. One of the things that I really loved about, as I was reading in this book, and I haven't quite finished yet, but it talks about the role of happiness in our habits. And I hadn't really thought of it that way before. Happiness, there's actually a lot of educational research that's gone into happiness lately. In fact, I read a book recently called The Happiness Advantage by Sean Anker, I believe. And the Happiness Advantage talks about all this study, all this educational study, academic study about happiness and about what is real. And so often I think we're programmed to think that once I get to this spot, or once I accomplish this thing, or once I have this item, I will be happy. And that's not the case. However, it is the case that if you are happy, you can accomplish those same things. Happiness really becomes a choice, and it becomes a choice over time. Happiness is, sometimes it's hard. I mean, people deal with mental health issues, depression, and the like that can really cause a difficulty in happiness. But one of the things that it does is it really helps you enable. It doesn't lead to happiness, but happiness causes the success that you're looking for. And in Sean's book, and it talks about 5 happy habits, and I really like this. It says, every morning, write down 3 things you're grateful for. Start your day with gratitude. Journal for 2 minutes a day about a positive experience from the past 24 hours. Think about it. Explore those positive experiences. This also has the added benefit of, as you incorporate these emotions into it, you feel that positive energy again. Third is meditate for a few minutes. Sit down, sit with your thoughts, focus on your breathing, and focus on your mind's control over your body. Fourth is, at the start of every day, write an email to someone praising or thanking them. This is one of those things that I found really powerful. Thank you notes are something that I know in my house that my wife definitely thrives off of. But I've actually found a lot of joy in writing these same thank you notes. In fact, I coach a youth baseball team, and I've noticed that, especially as I have personally called parents on the way home from practices where I knew that the kid could hear, and just brag about them for a minute to their parents, the amount of positive energy that elicits is amazing. It has been really neat to see some of these boys who have leveled up their skills in the arena of baseball. And it's been through positive reinforcement. We have one boy in particular who love him to death. He came and he said that he wanted to pitch, and this was a couple of months ago. And we were practicing indoors. And he came up, he got up on the mound, and he was throwing, and he was erratic. He was all over the place. He couldn't find the strike zone with a GPS. Like, he was just everywhere. And there were some things mechanically that he was doing wrong. And so we tried to help him correct those. This kid is incredibly cerebral. He's a little bit quiet. And I knew that it was going to be really important for him to have some positive reinforcement. We needed to make coaching corrections. That's the job, right? Being a coach. But I needed to do it in such a way that it was going to get him excited to do these corrections. And so I spent some time, and we did some drills that would help to overcorrect some of those issues so that ultimately he'd be in a good spot. Well, that night I made sure to to call his parents on the way home. So I dialed up his parents, and I knew that he would be listening. And I just talked about how grateful I was to have him on the team, and how hard he worked, and how it's such a positive thing to be able to see that this boy was learning, and he was trying harder. And we got to a spot where at one point he had said that he didn't want to pitch anymore, and and after that he said that he did. In fact, we have him. In fact, we're going to a tournament this coming weekend, and he'll probably get some time on the mound because he's worked at it, and he wanted to go home and get in the backyard right away and work with his dad, and that was empowering. I was happy to see that. Those are habits that will help. Now, and one of the things I'm actually looking forward to doing is writing some thank you notes to these boys so that they know how much I appreciate them, because I literally get to teach these boys the game that I love, and a game that is an effective metaphor for life. I tell my kids this all the time, but anything that a 30% success rate equals that you are a Hall of Famer, one of the best that's ever played, is an incredible opportunity to learn. When you fail 70 to 75% of the time, and yet you are still a success, if there isn't anything more like life, then I don't know what is. And the fifth habit is get 15 minutes of simple cardio exercise every day. Now, this is one that I love to do. I love to do cardio on my bicycle. That is, and it could be a brisk walk. Yesterday I took our English Bulldog Tank for a walk. Now, he's a very cute dog. I would call him hideously adorable. He is, he's definitely English. He's got the bad teeth, right? He's got the underbite. He is a bulldog through and through. His name is Tank, and he lives up to the billing. He's just over a year old and weighs nearly 90 pounds. And if I'm not careful, he will literally jerk my arm out of my socket as I walk with him. He needs to be trained a little bit better in walking. But yesterday we walked almost a mile, I think. And that same sort of exercise could definitely qualify for that 15 minutes of cardio. Well, over time, those things will make you happy. In fact, in his book, he recommends not doing them all at once. Add one, get good at it, get consistent with it, and then add another one, and rinse and repeat. In fact, so much of life, so much of good habits, so much of how we interact with the world around us in a positive way is very small things done over and over and over and over again. I have I have a poster behind my desk here that says grind, and it says doing the same things over and over again to get a positive result. And that is, that can be the definition. And going back to my baseball example, we'll get out in the garage with my son, and he will hit 150, 200, 250 baseballs into the net off of a tee, whatever. And that practice and that grind and that hustle is what is so valuable. Now, I don't believe that hustle is more valuable than everything else. I think that it accentuates. It's kind of like money that way. If you were a jerk as a poor person, you will be a jerk as a rich person. And if you were a humble servant as a poor person, you will be a humble servant as a rich person. You'll just have more capability of doing it. And I love that about it, is it truly reveals character. And the habits that we learn and the habits that we work through do that for us. They define our character, and our character defines how our life will go. Too often, I think we look for some external source for character, where really it is internal. And being able to take these daily habits, and there's another book I read by James Clear called Atomic Habits, or one by Brendan Burchard that is High Performance Habits. They all have a very similar vein in that if you do the little things over and over and over again, they eventually lead you to much bigger things. In fact, in the scriptures, we learn line upon line, precept upon precept. We do a little bit and learn and do it some more and learn and do it some more and some more and some more and some more. And over time, we're truly able to make massive changes. I had it explained to me one time, if we can get 1% better today, just 1%, and you do that day in and day out, by the end of the year, you will have improved nearly 500% when compounding takes place. And as you continue to do that, the mileage that you can gain is immense. Another example I had is, would you rather, in 1 month from today, would you rather I give you, and you have to lock in the choice today, but would you rather I give you $1 million, or would you rather I give you 1 penny for each day, 1 penny, but I double it each day? Now, if you're smart, you can do the math and you take the 1 penny, right? Because even though over a great deal of time, over the first 3.5 weeks, you're still way underwater the person who has $1 million. But those last 2 or 3 days make all the difference. And it's that last little bit. It's the continuing to go while you continue to grind through those habits that suddenly you become that overnight success. You guys, I could probably talk for an hour about goals. I could probably talk for an hour about habits. These are things that are important to me, things that I'm working on every single day, both adding good ones and relieving myself of bad ones. And we all have them. I have them. And I work every single day to try and knock off some of those sharp corners. And I feel that I'm starting to see progress, which is exciting because I know that progress will be accelerated. But I urge you, each of you, to go out and establish those daily habits that are going to make you successful in the long run, that will make you happy. Be grateful. Be out there and be active. Be willing to learn and be willing to admit when you're wrong and to show those around you what your true character is. That's all I've got for today. I really look forward to talking with you again next week. If you've got anything that you would like to add to the conversations, please email me, jr@mlmrenegade.com. Make it a great day.
Hey, thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe. And if you loved us, leave us an awesome review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you consume your podcasts. Now, if you'd like some free training for your team on how your recruiting efforts can be bettered and brought into the 21st century, go to podcast.mlmrenegade.com and get your copy of the Renegade Recruiting Kickstarter.